everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Securing Success Show. I'm John Mattis. I am all by myself today, and that's why you see our guest here, Margie Manto. Margie, how are you?
I'm great, John. How are you? Good morning.
Very good, very good. Oh, so we are shooting a morning show. So we usually shoot at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Tracy and I. Tracy's away, and Adam, our producer, has a conflict. So I'm the producer, the co-host, and trying to do everything myself at the same time. And it's earlier in the morning. So it's like 10 o'clock in the morning here in New York. So this is like our own little morning show, like a little Regis, Kathy Lee type thing going on.
Yes.
So,
Do you watch the morning show, that new TV show that's on Apple?
no.
Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston. Pretty good.
You know, that TV is going off the air.
Oh my God, there's like memes and all stuff about it everywhere. That
It's
not a
pretty
big
sad.
MTV person. Maybe when it first came out, I don't know any shows that are on it, but yeah, I mean, it hasn't been a video channel for ages, but it is sad that it's going away.
Well, you know what? It became all reality shows, like no
Okay.
music videos, but it was, I mean, that was like the channel to watch. And VH1, remember that? So it's very sad.
Video Music Box actually was one of the first, at least, when I was in school and watching videos. I think it was Ralph McDaniels was the host on Video Music Box.
Oh my God.
Mhm.
I listened, I think we're filming live now. So I hope our audience is in that age bracket where you remember MTV, you remember the original VJs. And so like during the day when I'm working, I have music going on all day. So anybody that's ever worked for me in my career knows I have music going on all day. So I either have Classic Rewind, which is like hosted by all of those old VJs, and Saturday night is always 80s.
Well, there's a thing that people always say when you're in Margie's car. First of all, I just don't have a ton of patience. So if I even love a song, I'm always going to the next one, But I always do shuffle on my Apple Music, and it goes from Frankie Valli to Tupac in like 1 second, word for word. So every pretty much collection I enjoy.
That's a wide range of music right there.
It is. Yeah.
Well, I guess you can see what kind of show we're going to have today. It's going to be very relaxed. And I'm going to officially introduce Margie. So I think everybody knows Margie from Metro One, but I'll do the official bio because that's just part of the show. By the way, this is obviously season 2. This is episode 24 in season 2. So we're over the episode mark. Thank you. So everybody, Margie Manto, she is the Chief Operating Officer now at Metro One. Metro One Loss Prevention Services Group, also known as Specialized. Margie can correct me after we're done here. But Margie has been in the industry for over 30 years. She's been in leadership roles, in asset protection, retail security, as well as operations. She is known for driving measurable results. She has held key roles as the director of asset protection at some of the Fortune 500 retailers. She's also been at Macy's and led North American security initiatives to reduce shrink and as well as boosted profitability. At Metro One, Margie leads high-performing teams with a data-driven, customer-first approach, ensuring agile, purpose-driven operations that consistently deliver value, earn client trust and praise. And for those of you that know Margie, we are very happy she was able to join us today. So welcome to the show, Margie.
Thank you. And I'm happy that you had time for me. And I've been watching so many of your episodes. I'm not just saying that because now that I'm on one, they're awesome. So many times it's friendly faces and it's been fun, and I see a lot of the back and forth that you all have, and Tracy does a terrific job as well. But I think it's really been good for people in the industry to see, and I'm happy to be part of it, and congratulations on 2 years.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we are looking at talking to Margie today about her career as well as some of her leadership, just a little history. So Margie and I know each other from the past. So we both worked together at Macy's. And some people have said to me offline, they've said to me, you got a lot of people that you know that you have on the show. And I was like, yeah, that's why we have the show. That's one of the best things about having the show and having no sponsors is that, you can have wherever the hell you want on the show. And the great thing is that, we first started working together when we were both very young, but now you are the COO of a major organization with how many employees? Thousands, I would assume.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And we've
So,
Specialized has broken that up, which I'll share a little bit later.
and Margie is an investigator by trade, just like I am. So, so we couldn't be happier to have her on the show. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And just, you keep mentioning the position. I just want to share. And first of all, thank you. I know we've chatted and, you were very supportive and offered your congratulations, but I'm super humbled and grateful. This has been an exciting journey so far, and it's just been wonderful. And I'm really, really proud and in awe of just what, the Vince and Brenda Caraba have created here. So it's been amazing, and I can't wait to elaborate a little bit.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, Margie, if you could just go back for our viewers and talk a little bit about how you started, and sort of the trajectory of your career, because, you're one of the few in the industry that has made the pivot from being a practitioner and a practitioner leader on the retail side to being a solution provider that supports the retail side. And I know the company that you're with, they really like having retail experienced individuals. But tell us a little bit about how that sort of came to be, like where you were and, how you became the chief operating officer at Metro One.
Yeah, I made a just huge career adjustment. And, there was always that opportunity and second guess of, do I leave retail, working for a retailer, and, take this leap onto the vendor side? And, there's always been, for us retailers, there's always been dialogue around, what that looks like. And if one goes either way, by the way, if someone goes from vendor to the retailer and, on the opposite side of that. And, I was torn between a couple of opportunities, and one of them was with a retailer. I was just leaving, my past career, and I received a phone call, and I was interested. And I was interested because of the fact that when Metro One first was created in the 80s and then early 90s, when they really took off, it was basically a security provider that focused solely on retail. And obviously my passion, 30 years, and, spent my entire adult life in that industry. So just fast forward, took the leap and was courageous enough. And I do say that because the unknown for anyone can be a little bit nerve-wracking. Yeah. Right. So, hey, what am I getting into? And is this really something I want to do? And I think what really supported my decision and built my confidence when I joined that I made the right decision was everything that I had instilled in me, that customer service comes first, right? So even in asset protection and retail, you're still a support partner. So you are, supporting whether the internal or external customer, you're a support group when you're in loss prevention, security, asset protection. So was I able to apply all of that for an organization that this is what it's built on? We're here to support our customers and the needs that they have and everything that they've asked for. So honestly, I thought it was going to be this huge transition, and it was seamless because it was just, my focuses were applicable just on a different side. And it worked out well, and it happened, really fast. The time, to come along and join, and then, came in as the vice president of operations. And I just made 2 years a few weeks ago, and, about that same mark was taking on this new role with Metro One.
Beautiful, beautiful. What was I've asked this from time to time with guests, but I'm always fascinated. Tell me about your first job. Very first paying job.
I was a cashier in a hardware store, a local hardware store, retail cashier in a local hardware store, which just closed their doors on their 97th year in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn.
Oh, wow. Wow. And then how did you get into the asset protection world?
That's actually fun. So I was a department manager at Macy's. You'll see how John and I met. And I was in a very high shrink department, and also in a very high shrink but extremely high volume profitable stores in Kings Plaza, Brooklyn, in that Macy's. And I was the department manager for juniors. And that was, like Tommy Hilfiger and Guess and Calvin Klein, all those brands, those designers that were very popular. So think about our organized retail crime, street value merchandise we have now. That was that then. And Macy's had a very cool program that if you were to identify and call the security team for possible shoplifting and or internal dishonesty, there was a reward program. And that is not what drove me at all to have an interest in it, but it was happening almost daily. There was a ton of external theft, and I would, collaborate and contact and partner with loss prevention. And then I'll never forget. So, and back then it was security. I don't think it would evolve to loss prevention yet. I'll never forget, it was Christmas Eve, and like most retailers, everyone has holiday hires. And I had personally hired someone, and they were ringing on the register, and I was recovering, which means folding clothing and doing everything to keep the floor nice and organized for, the guests, the clients. And I observed her talking to someone very long at the register. And my initial mind, thought was, hey, you can't service the person behind them. But something just didn't sit right with me. It just didn't sit right. And I called security and I reported it. And they actually identified and observed her stealing cash out of the register. And I just had such a passion for investigation. So I transitioned right from a department manager to a regional internal investigator with Macy's in the SIU department.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. As you're talking, it's like I remember those days. I've always been an advocate that the best investigators started as merchants, so you always have those, like a sales manager, department manager, who just has a knack, has an eye, sees it, they have a little bit of frustration because they can't deal with it hands-on, but they know something is going on. And those instincts, in my opinion, make the best investigators. So you were one of the first department managers that became an investigator in the organization.
Really?
You set the state. Yeah, you were the first one, and there were 4 others that followed you. You were the very first one. And,
I never knew that. That's cool.
And the interesting thing is that it was met with a lot of. Sorry, my phone's ringing. How amateur is that?
Tech
right?
went off before.
It's like, that's amateur hour right there. So it was met with a lot of positivity because everybody in the organization knew that we had great sales managers and they all had, a knack for something. So putting somebody in that transition from a sales manager into a regional special investigations investigator was very successful. So congratulations on being the first one.
Thank you.
So I have a laundry list of questions for you, but I want to sort of go into, sort of a flow. One of the things that you have both seen in this industry is that no one goes into this industry on purpose. No one, very rarely do you see somebody, I went to college to learn how to be a loss prevention manager or a regional investigator or a fraud analyst or a fraud investigator. It just doesn't happen. People fall into this job. And I think that is a great opportunity in our industry. And it has been an opportunity for a long time, but you still see people falling into the job, not on purpose. It just comes about. Do you see the same thing on your side?
If I was to answer that a while ago, probably yes. I do think there is a very intentional desire for folks now to join, these types of roles and to gain experience in these types of roles. One, there is just tons of exposure to many different facets of retail. So, it's funny. I remember sitting at a table many years ago, back in the Macy's days. So I'm talking a while ago, and we had the regional VP. Am I allowed to shout out names from music? I don't know what we do's and don'ts on here, but
we do whatever the heck we want.
Okay. Well, we're sitting around after a conference, and with Rich Matarazzo and a couple other folks, and actually I don't know if Malcolm was there. I don't think so. I don't think I ever worked with Malcolm yet. And everyone was talking about
Mr. Gaspard.
Yes.
Everyone, the number one at Kohl's was back there those days too.
Who was also a great guest of yours. I watched that episode, and that was terrific. And everyone was going around of what they wanted to do, or those folks that might have had still been in college or graduating were sharing what they studied, and no one at all was anything just, legal, law, anything at all, criminal justice. No one was, had either planned on that back then. I think now there is a healthier desire because, one, again, there's so many opportunities. I did a transition. People are now seeing, whether it's merchant side to loss prevention or talent to human resources. I feel like in investigations, I mean, every show on TV, how many channels focus on investigations, and all those memes or those reels that are out there is, people getting ready, going out at night, and now you sit home and you want to watch, what that murder mystery was or what's on 2020. I feel like there's just a greater interest now. So yeah, maybe I see it a little bit differently.
Yeah, and it's different because there's so many different views on the industry. It's just that you see it so much. It's like it's not the norm, but at some point it's going to be the norm. Where people purposely come into this business and study it and come in, hit the ground running, so to speak. What did you want to do? What did you want to do when you were a sales manager? Is that what you thought you were going to do? What did you think you wanted to do when you were a kid?
Well, when I was a sales manager, up until that very moment, and if recent experiences prior to that I shared earlier, I never thought of security, asset protection, loss prevention, any of that. I wanted to, run my own store and stay in retail and all of that. I did have, that is what I wanted to do. When I got into retail, I loved it. It was very fast paced. You don't have a minute to yourself before you know it. Day was over, and you're constantly engaging with folks and servicing people and leading teams. Very young in my career, I led large teams, and I loved it. And I still love it. What did I want to do as a kid? Be an actress and a dancer. That's what I wanted to do. Yes. That's what I wanted to do. I was very into movies, still am, like really good movies and good acting and directing and all of that. So that was my dream, my childhood dream.
That's awesome. Yeah. So let's go back to the industry. You've been a leader of people for a very long time. What are some of the things that you've learned along the way that has made you what you are today?
There's many. And what I am today as a leader, I think is, someone who is fair, probably empathetic. I don't know if I, led with empathy earlier in my career. And, as you grow personally and life happens and stuff happens, and sometimes they're not always, the puppies and rainbows part of life, you gain more empathy. I think I learned that not everyone is you. And not everyone operates the same way, and pace and style and all that. So, there was a part of me younger in my career that I was like, well, why do I have to flex my style? I have 30 people, right? They just have to, support and work and collaborate together with their leader, their supervisor. And I think flexibility, whether it's in tone and style and patience, and, personally at home, I don't possess a lot of that. And I had to really grow into that and have more patience. And anyone listening that knows me is probably like, she still doesn't have any patience. But I think you have to evolve as a person. So I don't know if there's a textbook answer for me to say, go to page 6, chapter 2 on, how to learn this as a leader. I think as you grow personally, you change. I'm not the same person I was 25, 30 years ago, or I was 10 years ago. Probably not even the same person 5 years ago because of, just stuff that happens in life. So I would just say to anyone listening that's newer in their leadership career, have patience with yourself too. Have patience with yourself. We all, especially in retail, we apply a lot of pressure to ourselves. Just hang in there. Be patient. You'll make mistakes. I've made plenty of them. And I worked in organizations that no one was shy to share that with you. And, that's okay. And I'm going to make many more mistakes in this new role. I'm sure I'll make mistakes, but just chill out. That was the biggest thing for me. Everything, I was so serious. Just chill out a little bit, at least.
That's great advice. You mentioned in retail, those that are in this industry know that, you got you have a company that you work for where you're a leader, but you allow the public in. And so you're dealing with not only your internal customer, but your external customers.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about a time in your career where you've, sort of been confronted or led through a crisis or an incident or something that was beyond the norm, how you handled that and, what you learned from it?
Sure. In security and loss prevention and, just unfortunately, especially with the times now, everyone that, would be asked that question, probably 20 different things, come to mind. When I think crisis, and, I just, shared an expression a few minutes ago about there's not always a handbook on stuff and turn to this page and read this paragraph. There was a moment, probably the most challenging moment in my entire career, definitely, but even personally, that I had to deal with something. And it involves shoplifters, and it just I don't even want to go into the details of it, not for any reason other than it's hard for folks to hear, right? And it made the news and things like that, and there wasn't a shoplifter that got harmed, and no one did anything wrong on the asset protection team. It was just something that you would never have imagined would happen with involving a shoplifter, and something that they were part of. And that's what it was. Something that they were part of was exposed and identified once they were being processed after the apprehension. And I think what I learned there is, as a leader, you have to stay calm. And sometimes our bellies are in knots, and we personally are affected by it. You have to stay calm. And if it takes, give me 1 minute and walk away and grab your thoughts and have your own emotions, you have to do that, because if you respond on emotion or you react on your first thought or your first, instinct, you're probably not going to be able to lead the right way, not make the right decisions, but people are relying on you. And I know that could add so much pressure, and maybe folks don't, want to hear that right now. There's so much pressure going on as it is. But I say pause, take a moment. Think about if it was an investigation an internal investigation, you're looking at the facts, or you're going to conduct an interview and you're going step by step. Take a moment, start from the beginning. And if I say or do this, what can happen? Always think about your outcome. I'm going to add something that'll be a little more, descriptive on COVID. Hurricane Sandy, excuse me. Hurricane Sandy was a crisis for anyone in the Northeast. And I was personally impacted, thank God, not like others where I lost, besides cars and vehicles, motorcycles, stuff like that. And I didn't lose my home, I didn't lose anything. But I led a team in the Northeast, and not just a loss asset protection team, but what about in asset protection, you're a support partner. What about all the merchant side, the regionals and the districts and the associates and everyone? And that was a time where I was impacted. And just being part of a very proud native New Yorker and see what was going on was something I don't think anyone ever thought would happen here. And probably we had some level of preparation, but not for what wound up happening. And I say the same thing. Take a moment, walk away for a second, gather your thoughts, and think about, if I say or do this, what are the possible outcomes? So I would recommend, in a crisis, sometimes you have to think fast and there's not a moment. But before you give direction, really think about what the outcome will be.
Great advice. Great advice. And I think I remember what you were talking about, but you really have to think of things very rationally.
Yeah.
Not let your emotions get involved, which is a job in itself. So a great way to describe it. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
When you look at your career, you've always been in that serious in the kind of management role, people manager, and, up to where you are today. You don't progress in the industry the way you do without having personal habits, good habits, rituals, things that you do that prepare you for your day. What does that look like for you? Like, what are some of your habits that you do every day that you just prepares you, for what you do, leading people? How do you handle your days?
Well, you said habits, so I'm a preacher by nature. I like things. I do this every day at 7. I do this every day at 9. But I would say something personally that is so applicable to anything in a leadership role, an individual contributor role, anything at all, is to be organized. Be organized, especially we are in such a fast-paced industry. Everything you thought you were doing today from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. probably got squashed by 5 other things, that whether it's a crisis that you mentioned before, on either one of those days, I don't think anyone that was involved thought, whether during Hurricane Sandy or something as critical as I mentioned before, that's how they were going to spend their day. So I think being planful, but have agility. be able to flex and just, so staying organized and plan, it's great to plan your work, but then you got to work that plan. I think be prepared for the unknown is something that's just a characteristic of myself and personal life, professional life. And I think that helps you not just stay organized, but able to deliver results actually.
So you say organized. What does that mean? Like as far as, share this with the audience. Is it everything from, having a personal planner that you use on like an iPad, or you actually write it down? Like, what are some of the things that you do every day to stay purposely and actually be organized? What does that look like for you? What's your method? What's your system that you use?
John, I think it's great. Everyone either uses their Outlook calendar or, on their phone and has Post-its everywhere. Everyone has a different flavor to that. And those things, yes, that's a great way to stay organized. And we have tools and resources. For me, it's more just my mindset, my leadership mindset of being able to forecast. So, again, you can't always plan for the unknown, but I pretty much can tell you what I want to be doing in the next 30 days. Right? What in the next 30 days, what that work week will look like. Obviously something can come up. I now have to travel somewhere, visit with a client, support someone on the team. Again, those are the unknowns. And I don't even call them roadblocks, just things that you didn't plan for. But I think you have to have a futuristic approach in this industry. We keep saying it, or I said several times today, how fast paced it is. Retail, loss prevention, asset protection, it's so fast paced. So to stay organized is to really, kind of forecast what's coming ahead. I wish I had a secret recipe for anyone on this call, but use your experience, use past experiences, use yesterday's experience to say, hey, this might, this is what 3 Wednesdays from now might look like.
It's great that you have such a forward looking mindset and thought process. Do you see where the industry is going in the future? Do you have a feel for what 5 years from now looks like?
And of course, what I think, it bothers me that how many times has anyone heard retail's a dying industry? Department stores are going away. Malls will close. Well, we've also been hearing that for probably a dozen years now. And, I think when we were shopping and growing up, you went to a mall and you did hang out and it was fun and it was great. And maybe that changed a little bit, especially for destination shopping and all of that. But now fast forward, malls are places that everyone goes. You're with your friends, you're by yourself, you're with the family, there's restaurants, there's movies, there's activities. So I don't think the industry, retail is, if anything, I think it will stay and thrive, if not even more so. And the reason for that is I think the retail leaders, I stay very close to not just, where I worked or who I work with. I stay close to the industry. I read, I try to stay connected. I'm interested. I always want to learn what people are doing. And I feel like everyone's very relevant, more relevant now. And, technology proved to us that one, you have to stay relevant. And, think about when you go and buy a TV, the second you leave the retail, you just bought a TV and the next model is out. So you have to stay relevant. You have to stay ahead of the times. But I think technology is really what's keeping everything relevant and keeping it alive. And that's something that we're doing as an organization at Metro One. And, with the 3 companies that are under specialized, Oryx being one of them. Not only is that to support tech companies, but it's our own tech platform. And, to keep things going, you have to forecast. You have to have a dashboard. You have to see what's coming. You want to know on Sunday what Tuesday will look like. Tuesday in retail, 2 days later from Sunday is like 5 years ago.
Exactly.
So, you have to just stay relevant. And I do think the industry is doing that more and more. Just chatting with folks I know, listening to guests on your show, hanging with you. I think folks are realizing, we have to be relevant. You have to use AI. And it might be a dirty word to some folks, but it's here and it's growing and it's evolving.
You know what? It's perfectly said, because retail's not dying, but it's drastically changing. And some people just are not adverse to change, or at least change that happens that rapidly. So I think that when people say that retail is dying is because they can't keep up with change. But it's changed for the good. Retail is fascinating.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, both e-commerce and physical stores, I mean, things are just so different now. And I think that people just need to look at it as things are changing rapidly. The industry is, turned upside down almost in the last 15 years, but it's all for the best. And at the end of the day, when you look at it, retail still is a major contributor to our economy, to our workforce. I mean, it's like 20% of the workforce is in retail or supporting retail. Almost 20% of our GDP is retail. So it's not going away. It's changing.
Yeah.
So, and you're a part of that.
And I'm happy to be. There's always so much dialogue too about, the digital business, retail business, and the omni business and online shopping and everything. But by the way, that's still retail, right? And it's still the same item that maybe you received in the mail or bought two of, you then go into a store, and it still drives people interested in retail and whatever it is, not just apparel and home goods, whatever it is. It, even if that business, because I know it's challenging for some folks to say, well, that's not going to drive foot traffic. Well, just take a look. I mean, I walk up and down, Fifth Avenue and Madison Avenue, and all the stores are thriving. So yeah, I think it's a very good time, and I think it's only going to get better.
So you're a native New Yorker.
Yes.
But I don't hear a New York accent from you.
John, you are probably one of the only people that have ever said that. And there
Really?
are probably folks chuckling, yes. Although I will say, so I'm an open book. Anyone that knows me, I not that shy of the tongue, and pretty much will share anything about myself. There's, just what you see is what you get here. And it's funny, many, many years ago, and I used to do a lot of presentations many years ago, three organizations ago. And they would say, but when you present or you're teaching or you're training, it's like you turn it off. Like all of a sudden you enunciate differently. So maybe that's what's happening now. But you and I have had a lot of personal time together, whether it's, lunch or dinner or at conferences. So I am shocked that you said you don't hear an accent.
I'm going to have to pay
But
attention.
I'll take it.
More. I'm going to have to pay attention more. So you're in your presentation mode.
I am.
You're not.
I sit in a very formal seat. I've been told that.
And
I'm okay with that. I sit in a formal seat. I'm in presenter mode right now. I'm trying to be very articulate and enunciate all my syllables here.
Well, this has been a fun show. And
Always fun.
You've made it much easier for me being, wearing a bunch of different hats. So thank you for being such an amazing guest.
Thank you. Thank you for being an amazing host. I have a question for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I never get any questions.
Okay. And I swear I probably should have texted you and said, hey, was that all right if I do this? But I didn't think of it till right now. What made you do the show?
Tracy, Tracy has been in the industry as long as we have. I knew Tracy, but I never even had a conversation with Tracy until 2.5 years ago.
Okay. Same.
And so we were talking and, saying, things that are missing in the industry, things that we'd love to be able to do. And we both talked about podcasts. I mean, I think she brought it up first, but I said, hey, you want to do a podcast together? And she was like, yeah. I think she did a background check on me to make sure I was legit. Yeah. I think she did because that's something that she would do. But she checked on me. And then we just started putting our ideas together. And that's what it came about. We just wanted to be different.
Yeah.
Everything that we do is different. We have no sponsor.
Relevancy.
Yeah. We have no sponsor.
Podcasts are everywhere.
We just want a show that gives back. And so like in this industry, you could have a show about, physical guard service. You can have a show about technology. The bottom line is the two things that everybody in this industry share an interest on is how do I get to the next level and how do I lead people? So that's our show, and everybody that we have on is to pass on what Tracy calls tribal knowledge, stuff that just is not written down. It's on the job training. And so, it's not documented anywhere. So how can we pull all of that out of the leaders like yourself and share it with everybody because we want to make the industry better? And that's really it. And,
very cool, by the way. Very cool.
Logos
We're all
are different.
glad that you did this.
Our color scheme is different. We're just different. And it's, it's folks like yourself that, that talk us up and make us better every day. So great question. And thank you for asking that.
It just came to me. Well, and Tracy, we missed you, so I'll come on in a couple of years from now. We'll do it again together. But
Yes, you'll take.
thank you, John. This has been great. I really, really enjoyed it, and have a great day, great weekend, great holiday. Because again, retail, we're all thinking about Q4 and holiday already. So
Yeah, everybody's in holiday prep mode now.
yeah,
But at the very least, thank you again for being such an awesome
thank you,
guest.
thank you so
So
much.
that wraps up another episode of the Securing Success Show. Thank you, Margie, for being a very cool guest, making it easy for me. And we'll see you next time on the Securing Success Show. Take care, everybody.
Take care.